There is a moment in the original Assassin's Creed that still sticks with people, even years later. It's not a boss fight, or just that it's not a set piece. It's the quiet before everything sort of begins. Like Altair's standing above the city, watching rooftops stretch into the distance, people moving like ants right there, and a world that feels alive but distant, almost detached from you until you finally drop into it and realize how different movement feels when every wall, every leap, every ledge is just part of a rhythm that you have to learn. See, that was the beginning of something bigger than anyone expected at the time. And now, after years of evolution, sequels, spin-offs, and reinventions, the idea of returning to the original Assassin's Creed as a fully reimagined modern experience has now started to circulate again in gaming discussions, for many reasons. Not a remake that simply upgrades textures per se, not a remaster with sharper lightings, etc., but a full reimagining of the first game's world, systems, and structure. And honestly, it makes more sense now than it ever has before. Because Assassin's Creed has changed so much over the years that going back to the beginning doesn't even feel like nostalgia anymore. It just feels like completing a cycle, especially after Black Flag's continued popularity and the franchise's shift toward more open-world RPG systems. The thing is, there's a growing belief that Ubisoft could eventually revisit the foundation that started it all and rebuild it with anything the series has learned ever since. And that idea alone changes how you think about the original game. See, the first Assassin's Creed was ambitious, but also limited. It had a strong identity, stealth, parkour, social blending, and structured assassination missions across historical cities like Jerusalem, Damascus, but it was also repetitive in structure, constrained by early design philosophy and held back by the technology of its time. See, a modern reimagining wouldn't just polish those systems, it would rebuild them completely. Like, imagine those same cities but fully expanded with modern density and detail, not just landmarks connected by rooftops, by living environments where crowds behave dynamically, guards respond intelligently, and social stealth actually feels like part of a living ecosystem instead of a scripted mechanic. See, Jerusalem at sunrise with layered crowds moving through marketplaces that feel unpredictable instead of repetitive patterns. Acres, walls rebuilt with modern environmental storytelling so every district feels like it has its own identity. And Damascus, filled with vertical architecture that actually rewards exploration instead of just serving as climbing routes. That alone would transform the experience. But the real evolution would come from gameplay systems, of course. Because modern Assassin's Creed mechanics have grown so far beyond the original structure that a reimagining could blend both eras together in a way that finally completes the vision. The core fantasy of the original game was pretty simple. Be an assassin hidden in the plain sight. Observe, plan, strike, and eventually escape. But early gameplay systems were still relatively rigid. Missions followed similar patterns, movements, while revolutionary at the time now feels like something that could be expanded into much more fluid traversal systems. Parkour today in gaming has evolved into something faster, smoother, and more responsive than anything the original game could ever support. A reimagined version could finally bring that fantasy to life properly. I mean, Altair's movement through cities with seamless flow. No awkward pauses, no rigid animations breaking momentum, just continuous motion across rooftops, walls, crowds, and structure. A system where traversal itself becomes part of the gameplay tension instead of just transportation. And stealth, which has always been the heart of Assassin's Creed, could become much deeper, where instead of simple blending mechanics, crowds could become reactive systems. Guards could remember behavior patterns. Reputation system could evolve based on how visible or hidden your actions are in different difficult districts. Cities could become more hostile and more welcoming depending on how carefully you operate within them. That would bring the original fantasy closer to reality than ever before. And you see, there's also the assassination design itself. In the original game, missions often followed a structured formula. Investigate, gather information, and eliminate a target. Now, a reimagining could expand those assassination arcs into fully dynamic missions where targets move through layered routines protected by evolving security systems, requiring deeper plannings and observation rather than linear progression. Like imagine tracking a target across multiple districts over time instead of a single mission instance. Watching patterns change based on time of day, creating opportunities through environmental manipulation instead of simply reaching a market location. That level of depth could make each assassination feel like a true operation again, not just a mission and events. And that's where modern storytelling tools could also elevate the experience significantly. The original Assassin's Creed had strong narrative ideas, especially around memory, identity, and control through the Animus system, but it was still relatively straightforward in presentation. And a reimagining could lean much harder into psychological storytelling, memory distortion, unreliable narration, shifting perspectives between Altair and the modern-day subject experiencing his memories. That dual structure could become much more immersive with current technology, especially if modern-day segments are integrated more smoothly instead of just feeling like separate gameplay sections. That's right. So not to mention, there's also growing speculation that Ubisoft's long-term strategy for the franchise may involve revisiting older entries while continuing to expand newer ones. The success of recent remakes and remasters across the industry has shown that players are willing to return to classic experiences if they are built with care and respect. And the original Assassin's Creed is uniquely positioned in that space because it isn't just a sequel waiting to be polished, it's the foundation of an entire genre direction. Rebuilding it now would mean reintroducing the origins of stealth action parkour gameplay to a new generation that may only know the later RPG-heavy versions of the series. Not a remake that simply upgrades textures per se, not a remaster with sharper lightings, etc., but a full reimagining of the first game's world, systems, and structure. And honestly, it makes more sense now than it ever has before. Because Assassin's Creed has changed so much over the years that going back to the beginning doesn't even feel like nostalgia anymore. It just feels like completing a cycle, especially after Black Flag's continued popularity and the franchise's shift toward more open-world RPG systems. That alone gives it significance beyond nostalgia. It becomes preservation, reinterpretation, a chance to show how the series began while also updating it for modern expectations. And if handled correctly, it could also create something rare in gaming, which is a remake that doesn't just remind players of the past, but makes them experience it again as if it were new. We think that's the essence of a good Assassin's Creed. And if it ever returns in a reimagined form, this whole thing, that's the feeling it will need to capture all over again.